Today I'm talking to Claus. When Claus first heard about the carnivore diet, his first thought was, that's a bit extreme. But at the end of 2019, Claus went on a keto diet, and since then he's moved closer and closer towards a carnivore way of eating. Just before we meet Claus, do me a massive favor, smash like and also please subscribe. This helps out the channel and it helps me to be another voice out there talking about the carnivore diet. Let's meet Claus. Can you tell me a little bit about how you started living the low-carb lifestyle?
Yes, it started back in 2019, and I'd been kind of fighting myself for a while. I thought I was drinking too much, and I was having a glass of wine every time I was doing the cooking, and that kind of turned into a very very enjoyable habit, but not a good one. And I kind of reached a point where I got tired of looking myself in the mirror each morning and telling myself, well, come on, what's going on here? And then I thought, okay, I have to do something. So the first thing I did was to stop drinking any alcohol. And I thought I'll do it for a month. So I started on the mid-October 2019. I happened to be at a trade show in the business I'm in. And so the last drink with alcohol I had was a beer with some friends there. And then I went on for a month without alcohol, which first of all was surprisingly easy. I actually thought I had more of a problem, to be honest. So I was really surprised how easy it was not to drink. A bit of a reflex for the first week or two when I was cooking, and then the reflex to open the fridge, take out the cold bottle of white wine and pour myself a nice big glass and the first sip. But anyway, it went away, and I haven't had alcohol since. Very very easy. The only slightly unfortunate thing was that it didn't. I didn't feel any different or better or anything. I didn't lose any weight. Nothing happened. So I thought, okay, I need to do something more. And I'd been watching lots of YouTube videos on various diets, and my friends had given me vegan cookbooks and things like that. So I was kind of I thought, okay, maybe I need to go vegan, because that seems to be really the most healthy thing I can do, and also be a decent human being, and be kind to the animals and all these kinds of things. Before, I think for me at least, before I went down the rabbit hole, you're quite uninformed about nutrition, food, your body, and everything. And the thing that really actually surprised me the most was how incredibly uninformed I was, and it was quite a nice journey for me to research and go down the rabbit hole. So anyway, watched lots of YouTube videos with all what I would call all the usual suspects. So I started with Low Carb Down Under and Low Carb USA were two sites which provided an enormous amount of free, high quality material with speakers from the medical side, from science. So to me, I'd say I'm just a manager, business manager out of industry. So I'm not a scientist, but I'm kind of used to my things being well founded, and I have to be able to defend my positions to my board of directors and owners and etc. So the way I work is in that way at least quite systematic. So I took that knowledge and so it pointed very clearly in direction of low carb, which of course I quickly found to be difficult to combine with a vegan vegan or even a plant-based lifestyle, to call it that. So that's how I found the ketogenic diet, and I kind of thought it was at that point. I think a carnivore lifestyle seemed actually a little bit extreme to me, to be honest, and. And I thought, this crazy stuff. Okay, that can wait, or I can do it for a week or something. But ketogenic, that made sense. Lots of research for 100 years of history, and well documented. So I thought, okay, I'll go for ketogenic, and we'll see where it takes us. And again, I said, okay, I'll do it for a month and see what happens. And so on the 18th of November 2019, I had my first ketogenic day, which wasn't too bad. And I had maybe a little bit of keto flu on the next day, and on the Wednesday, it was gone. And within the first month, or within the first 4 weeks, I lost about 26 pounds of weight, which was a little bit surprising to me, because I didn't set out with a weight loss goal. Obviously, I was a little bit pudgy. I didn't really think that I was fat, to put it like that. But looking in the rearview mirror, when I then lost the next 26 pounds over the following 8 weeks from that. When you lose almost 30% of your body weight without any issues at all, without doing, I didn't do any exercise. I just changed my diet and cut my carbs to less than 20 grams per day, and that's it. No carb counting, no macro counting, no nothing. And so I. So I went down to, at the lowest point, I went down to, I don't have it in pounds, but in kilograms. I went down to 62 kilograms from close to 90, and felt fantastic. And I still feel fantastic. And now I'm at about 68 kilograms. So I gained quite a bit of muscle mass, because I started exercising about, let's say, 9-10 months into my new path. I started exercising, and with home exercises, calisthenics and stuff. It was in the middle of the height of the pandemic, and also I clearly tend to believe in authority. So I was a good boy and did and followed the rules, and I stayed at home most of the time. So calisthenics and bodyweight exercise was a good option and worked fine. So quite. I'd say the only downside I had in the beginning was after the first month, I went out and bought new clothes because nothing fit anymore, and then 2 months later, I went out and bought new clothes again because nothing fit. So I lost about a total of 6 inches around the waist. In fact, there were a couple of other things which were not necessarily, I wouldn't say they weren't really objectives, but something that I could observe. Which, first of all, was I started playing also with a continuous glucose monitor, and my doctor had done blood tests just before, and my A1C was very close to 7, so I was about to get basically a type 2 diabetic diagnosis as well. Strangely enough, that I'm kind of claiming that wasn't the trigger to do anything, because I was living very much in the well, okay, then I'll just have to take the medicine, and I'll have to take the pill or inject or whatever. I didn't know anything about diabetes, so. But of course, that went away. My A1C came down to 4.8 within 3 months, and And also, I had been on blood pressure medication, not very heavy, I think. I'm not really an expert on that, but I had to, after a couple of weeks of keto, I had to stop taking my blood pressure medication because I was just feeling dizzy all the time, and my blood pressure was really, really low. And it was a bit on the high side, even medicated before. And now I'm at about something like, typically 110/65, unmedicated since end of 2019. So good stuff. Also, all stomach troubles. I had IBS for 40 years, probably. It went away. Not one issue for soon 4 years. Nothing. And almost no headaches, no migraines, no dandruff, no joint pain. I started to develop some joint pain in a couple of my fingers, went away. And so things which were deemed to be chronic things like arthritis and diabetes, high blood pressure, what have you, seem not to be chronic diseases in my case either. And like many cases also you've had here. So just a fantastic positive experience. And I think actually the single most positive one issue to get rid of was the IBS. So the constant watching for where's the bathroom, and oh no, what did I eat now? And I still really don't know what was the issue, but I'm guessing probably a combination of grains and maybe seed oils. But I suspect the grains, the grain products, to be the culprit, so to speak. So really, really fantastic therapeutic effect on that, without having any other specific goals that I need to look better. I need to feel better, and I think that's one of the some of the things that were on my list of triggers. Let's say the impetus or triggers to make a change was, of course, first of all, not really feeling that well, but I thought that being in professionally in the role I'm in, and also as a father of 4, although already in their 20s, children, I have a job as a role model and as a leader. I need to lead by example, and how can I be taken 100% seriously if I can't even take care of myself and my own body? I mean, and it is maybe a banal way of looking at it, but that motivated me to really start doing something and saying that this I can't accept this state. So I started working on that, and all the issues that cleared up were kind of bonus points on top of everything. So that was very nice. I think there is another point I'd like to make for me is. There are a couple of things, or a few things, which are going to or can fight you on the way. Not necessarily in the beginning when you're still enthusiastic and it's a bit of an experiment, and it's all exciting and you're losing lots of weight, and suddenly I can see my abs and things like that. Then at some point, every day returns, and routine returns, and it normalizes, and then I think if you're like me, with definitely with a kind of an addictive a trait in my personality or in my structure, that those addictive tendencies can come and bite you again, and your brain is going to start to try to play tricks on you. And one of the big things for me is this kind of thought that you only live once thought, or what's the meaning of life, and well, come on, you can whatever, you can eat this or drink this or do this or whatever, and those your mind will play those tricks on you. I claim so that's something I think to be prepared for. And one of the things I fortunately had done, I had bought the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I'm not affiliated, obviously, so I'm just a normal person, and it's probably one of the books that's made the biggest impression in terms of changing my way of doing many things is this book, and I highly recommend looking at something like this, which is when you take away a big part of your life, which is eating and cooking and drinking and those things, you need to substitute it with something meaningful. Otherwise, you're probably just going to substitute it with some other bad habits, like scrolling all day or being on your phone, because you're gonna be left with a lot of time on your hands. At least I was, hours every day. And one of the things I did was I started exercising. That's one of the, that's a number of the habits are related to exercise. But I built a big catalog actually of new good habits, and most of them are incredibly simple and easy to do, but kind of need to be done. You need to get out of your chair and do them. And that's something which provided an incredibly helpful framework, especially in times of doubt, or in times of when your mind plays tricks on you. So I think that's something I would highly recommend. There are a couple of other books with a similar theme, but the point is just, create a structure of good habits, whether it's a habit of making your bed, to quote Jordan Peterson, or whatever it is, drink a glass of water when you get out of bed, and just simple things, but also complex and bigger things. You can use the structure to become better at complex things as well. And then I think for me the kind of the key things in my experience, as wonderful as exercise is, and it's really a huge mood moderator or improver in my case. The endorphins, even that I get even out of not very much exercise. I think exercise is not on the top of the list of things you need to do if you want to get healthier and stay healthier. And I think for me, the priorities, I made a small list of priorities. The first one is food and drink. You need to get your diet in order, and the stuff that you thought you could eat and you could eat without problems when you were younger, you can't eat that, and you have to accept the realities and the facts, and then do what's necessary. That doesn't mean you have to be a carnivore, but it probably does mean you need to cut your carbs by a significant amount, and of course processed foods, etc. Sleep hygiene, very important. And I find, at least for me, I used to be able to sleep like a log at any time when I was younger. That's not the case anymore. A good routine, good light routines, getting sunshine in the morning, or sunlight, even if it's overcast like it is now here, and then having good circadian rhythm is something which helps with good sleep. Not too much strolling in the evening, and of course, when you don't drink alcohol, that helps enormously as well. So, then for me, at least, meditation and mindfulness was something that I've gotten into, I would say, big time. So I meditate let's say probably about 20 minutes per day. Sometimes I do it twice, but mostly it's just one time. And sometimes I just do it by myself, and sometimes I do a so-called guided meditation. So I listen to something which is a guided meditation track, but that helps to at least it helps me to kind of be able to understand what is to filter out thinking which is not constructive for me. And one of the big things I think I learned in that category was that I don't have to accept all my thoughts. It's a revolutionary concept for me, and a wonderful freeing experience when you go, when you're in a professional setting, when you're running a company, you're very, very thinking focused and problem solving focused. So thinking is really, at least in my case, I really defined myself through my ability to think well, and thank God I don't have to do that anymore. It was really, really a major thing, and I recommend meditation or listening to some of the gurus in the field. And I think there are some Tibetan ones which are very sympathetic and nice to listen to. And then there is a guy called Eckhart Tolle who I highly recommend listening to. Not necessary to buy any books. He's put everything on the internet, so easy to find, and a very compelling guy, at least to me. Then exercise. Exercise is important, but for me it's number 4 on the list here. And like I said, I started with some body weight exercise, and I think you don't really need to do anything other than body weight exercise. You can develop a phenomenal physique with that. I go to the gym as well because I like to meet people. So I have I've gained a new set of gym friends, and it's nice to get out of the house to do these things. And so I have a combination. When I'm on the road, like now, I do my body weight exercises, and when I'm stationary at home, I go to the gym and lift some heavier weights. And the last one on my list here was the building of good habits. So I think the like I said before, the good habit building is a favor you can do yourself. So that's it. And at the moment, I'm mostly ketogenic, I would say, and I'm kind of a carnivore version of ketogenic. So, like in the beginning, I said I felt that carnivore, or thought that carnivore was completely extreme, a little bit nutcasey, but I have to say it was kind of a sliding process for me. That you start out ketogenic, and then I don't really know why, but then the amount of fat goes a little bit down, and then the protein goes up, and then although I was a very hardworking hobby cook before, I've kind of I wouldn't say I've lost interest, but I think one of the key things to be successful is that that food doesn't play a big role in your emotional life. Of course, it plays a big role in terms of nourishing you, but it can't have a big role in your emotional life and in your time and your hobby and things. So reducing the time I spend with and around food is quite an effective way to live, and that kind of leads to okay, so I make an omelet and I cook a steak, and that's it. Maybe I have a little bit of sauerkraut with it. Often, sometimes I have some yogurt with a few berries. So I'm not I don't feel obliged to follow, to be a disciple of Sean Baker, or to be a disciple of anybody. I just want to do what's good for me and share it. But fact is that I mainly eat eggs and meat, and I don't even eat that much cheese anymore. It's just I don't know. It kind of slides in the direction automatically if you don't actively work on keeping it ketogenic. And being strictly ketogenic is more of a challenge or a job than just being mainly carnivore, because you don't have to count anything. It's not so, the ratios of fat to protein are not so critical. So, and I don't need to be in ketosis all the time. So
Before October 2019, take out the
yes,
alcohol. Before 2019, how
yes,
was your diet?
I would say I was usually eating twice a day. I was never a breakfast person, which made it easier to change, of course. And I, I think I would say I ate pretty much the standard proportion of the diet. You know, I love pasta, rice, and on potatoes. You can make all kinds of nice things out of potatoes, and so I had a good amount of greens and good amount of carbs. I always loved meat too. But as a kid, when we had the steak for breakfast with my dad, we got scolded by my mother. So we tried to do it in secret sometimes, but it seemed odd. And so yeah, I was just a standard guy. And then I do some snacking with sweets, and that seemed to increase as I got a little bit older. When I was younger, I didn't really eat sweets at all, but I got developed more of a sweet tooth probably during my 40s, I'd say. And so I'd often have some chocolates and what have you, of course, in the evening, and then I'd feel not so good the next day, and then you wonder, what's wrong with me, when it's not really anything wrong with me, but just what I put in my mouth. But that's it. You wander through life not knowing what you don't know, and it's kind of a. And then we hear also here in Germany and in the Scandinavian countries, the dietary guidelines are a result of the dietary guidelines from the US, or at least they were, and they are still pretty consistent, overlapping, I would say 99% with the American standard American diet, although we may not have as many colorants and not as many sweeteners and other things in the food, but it doesn't help anyway. If you eat too much of the wrong stuff, it's going to get you. There was nothing just that comes to mind when I started out. Actually, important point. I started out with a 16/8 time restricted eating. So I've been time restricting since the beginning, and so I started with 16/8, which wasn't really that difficult because I was never a breakfast person, and I didn't specifically do anything to make this window smaller. It just goes that way because you're so full that in the end you can only eat. If I go by feeling of hunger, I can eat only one meal a day because I'm simply not hungry. Sometimes I spread it out a little bit, just for sake of spreading it out. So I eat something at 2:00 and in the afternoon, and then I eat something at 6:00 in the evening, and that's it. But that's more. It's not really a hunger issue. It's more because it's nice to eat something. So I think the time restricted eating is something which is definitely. I mean, it's been shown in a number of studies that it's very effective, even regardless of what you eat. But the combination, I think the combination of these two things, having a ketogenic diet and time restricting, that was the reason why I lost so much weight so quickly in the beginning. So.
It's
and super easy to keep off. Sorry.
So yeah, I was just going to agree with you. When you are eating this way, it's just so easy to or literally forget about food completely. You eat something, you feel nourished, yes. you don't eat again for One thing that I wanted to come back to is you mentioned where you're living. You mentioned Germany. Now, recently I've heard
Yes.
about obviously I'm hearing on Twitter, so I don't know how true this is or not. But I hear on Twitter that in
Yes.
Germany there's this big crackdown on the amount of meat that people can buy, or there's proposals for this kind of thing. How is the buying of meat in Germany, and what are the prices like, and so on and so forth?
It's meat has increased quite a bit. The prices have increased quite a bit in the post COVID times. Um, but you can get, let's say, if we take ground beef is about five US dollars a pound. A little bit depending on where you buy. If you go to Aldi, you can get it for probably for 30-40% less than if you go to the most expensive grocery store. But eggs, you get 10 eggs for about $2 US, and yeah, the packages are 10 eggs, and so. And when I kind of try to compare, I sometimes I go in and look at the prices at Walmart in the US just to have a comparison. I think there aren't really the differences to Germany or Finland, which is quite similar in pricing. The differences to US are in most of the staples. The differences are not very big. The biggest difference is that in the US, you can buy a 5,000 pack of something and get it cheaper. We can't. That doesn't exist here. But it's easy to get. It's easy to get high quality meat, and the meat that we have available here in our supermarkets, even in Aldi, which is the biggest discount chain. All of the meat that we get here is local. So it's. I even know some of the farmers actually, but you can it's printed on the package where it's from, and it's local from the region, and so are the eggs, and I think much of the vegetables are not local, because this is not much of it. I think I'd say Spain is a really big producer of vegetables for much of the EU. But anyway, I don't eat many vegetables. I don't know about the initiatives to ban meat, to put it like that. I'm sure that there are plenty of people, and I'm sure that the militant vegans are overrepresented in politics. That's very, very clear. The same in Scandinavia, but so far easy enough to get meat, and also, people are not marching in the streets. So I think Twitter is sometimes a little bit, sensationalist.
Yeah, that I was kind of when I read something on Twitter, I'm always kind of 50-50 about, do I believe this or not? Yeah. You mentioned you have 4 children, but
Yes.
they're all adult age. So, what's your living situation now? Are you living alone, and so cooking is kind of easy for you? Are you living with family still, or?
Yeah. I just because I mainly just cook for myself.
Mm.
That's which makes it easy, and and when there are others around, I I ask them, do you want me to make an omelet for you, or can I fry you up some meat, and I'm happy to cook them some pasta and some rice if they want that. So I from time to time I just make, let's say, normal food for them, but usually I cook something. If I cook for everyone, I usually cook something which then has it has maybe a carb add-on. So I don't eat the carb, but they can take it.
Mm.
So I think I don't want to. I'm not big into um, putting people under pressure to do what works for me or what I find good. I think I am probably a bit preachy, but not from a point of view that you need to do what I say, or you're bad, or it's wrong or something. How do I know what's good or bad for somebody else? I'm just so incredibly enthusiastic about this because it was so phenomenally effective for me, and these days I don't think so much about it in my everyday life, but I'd say the first year, my mind was blown every day of the change. So, and of course they've seen it, and a couple of my kids have been, or probably all of them have been trying out keto and carnivore for some periods of time. But of course they live student lives, and as they should, and so they don't do it as strictly or as continuously as I do. But they are definitely curious, and of course they can see the change it's had in me. So they can obviously see it more than even I can, because I'm not looking in the mirror all the time. So yeah, it's and they're good, curious people. So I'm sure that they'll be much better advised around nutrition than I was at their age and after. I have a daughter one of my daughters is in med school in Berlin. And of course, she's extra interested and also knowledgeable about the biochemistry and things related to this. Although they have 2 weeks of nutrition in her university. That's it. So still very reductionist and very, let's say, mechanically and problem solving oriented rather than prevention oriented. But that's going to take a while before that changes.
Yeah, that's going to be a very slow process, I think.
Yes, and maybe rightly so, I would say. There has to be some inertia, I think, in some processes. So.
You talked before about how you have an addictive personality.
Yes, I do.
I feel the same about myself. Do you think that having an addictive personality is something that, is a kind of, people will naturally find this way of eating because of that kind of personality? I feel
That's
like
a very good question.
Maybe one of these kind of diets that people are likely to, with an addictive personality, once you're on this kind of way of eating, it's a little bit easier to stick to. It's
Yes.
kind of a backwards way of
very
thinking
extremely
about
easy
it.
to stick to. No, but I'm with you. I follow you, and I definitely go as far as saying that if you have an addictive personality and admit it to yourself or realize it, this is it's highly recommendable or highly recommended to do this type of lifestyle, because it makes it so much easier to avoid the negative behavior. And I'd even say, I've been thinking of the ketogenic diet and these and the carnivore diet. I've been thinking about it in terms of how can I apply it in other areas of life as well. Reduce the overconsumption of unnecessary things, and somehow, I have the feeling that you could apply the ketogenic principle in your finances and in other areas of life as well. So I do think that I think you may have a point. Yeah.
That's actually, it's very interesting you raise it that way, because I find that in a lot of areas of life, we go through life making things more complicated than they actually need to be.
Yes.
One of those things is diet. And I find a lot
Mhm.
of the time when I've kind of been able to conquer something, it's when
Yes.
I try and take the complexity out of it and just look at it as basically as possible, you know.
Yes.
And what my perfect kind of example of this is when you look at public speaking, you know, you take out all the mess and you just look at public speaking as, well, it's just communication. You just take the communication you would have with a
Yes.
person one on one and you do that with a group, and that's what's effective.
Exactly.
Forget the slides,
Yes.
forget the junk, just focus on talking to people. Um, and
Yeah.
I think Carnivore mirrors that as well. Forget all the counting, forget all this kind of thing. Just focus on what's going to satiate you and nourish you. And I'm with you. I'm sure there's other areas of life that are like that as well. Um, so you share quite a lot on Twitter.
Yes.
That's how we got in contact. And
Yes.
what is Twitter a vehicle for you? Is it just sharing, or is it to kind of get this lifestyle out there? What do you aim to achieve with it?
I my simple aim is to my thinking is that if I share my story, my nutrition success story, and let's say offer to help, then I can help people in need of help. So I'm there to help, and of course to spread the word, and also with that follows also some discussions and some commenting related to weeding out misunderstandings, and also trying to keep it, I would say, trying to keep it non-religious and non-extreme. I think that's very, very important. I'm a I don't subscribe to uh, being purist for the sake of being purist. That's not my nature. I'm pretty pragmatic, and I think we shouldn't make it one bit more challenging or difficult than it is to make such a change, and by stipulating all kinds of rules that you can't have a raspberry or, if ever, or something like that. That's ridiculous. So I'm just trying to help, and I like to help people and support people. It's what I do in my professional life as well. I mean, some of the people may not see it that way, but but my that's the most effective way to run a company profitably and successfully, is if you help your employees to be successful and let them do their thing. So that's kind of my principle there. And of course, I have to admit, I'm a bit of a debater. I like to debate, but I found it much easier now that I'm this age to not get into stupid debates and very ego based stuff. So it's also a good practice for me to switch off my ego and do a non-ego based approach to helping and just being kind. That's I think that's it.
Klaus, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Guys, thanks for watching. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.